We have got ourselves in a very interesting situation for today in daily fantasy baseball because lock for the main slate is at 12:20 p.m. Eastern on FanDuel, which means if you're listening to this after 12:20, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day. But we've got to hustle to get through this podcast and get you set to fill out some good lineups. What we're going to do today is break down this 9-game main slate, still give you the info you need to make good decisions, but hopefully do so in a quicker fashion to get you on your way before lock rolls along. So let's dive on in and get you set for this Wednesday slate. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberfire.com. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberfire.com, here to break down this 9-game main slate with lock set for 12:20 p.m. Eastern over on FanDuel. And there's a lot of weather to note for today. In Atlanta, winds are in from center at 12 miles per hour. That is a slight downgrade to bats of the Nationals and the Braves. There's a good chance of rain in Cincinnati for the Reds and the Guardians. It honestly doesn't look great, so no guarantees that game even goes, so be wary of Reds and Guardians bats. In Minneapolis for the Twins and Dodgers, winds are out to center at 15 miles per hour, but it's just 42 degrees, so still a pretty bad spot for hitting today. I would say that's a massive downgrade to hitters there. There's a chance of rain in Detroit for the Tigers and Red Sox, though they'll at least start the game. I think they should be fine. Winds are in from right at 17 miles per hour, so upgrade pitchers in that one. The game in St. Louis between the Cardinals and Royals should start, but then it looks like heavy rain will roll in around the third inning or so. So proceed with caution on that one. And finally, temperatures in San Francisco for the Giants and Padres are 49 degrees, so downgrade hitters in that one. We'll dive on into the pitchers in just one second. First, a quick reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Our PGA podcast for Thursday went up yesterday with myself and Brandon Gadula breaking down our thoughts on the RBC Heritage. We've got NHL still going, UFC, NASCAR, a lot of good stuff. And of course, the solo shot here every weekday. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. And also do not forget that if you've not yet signed up for FanDuel Fantasy, you want to dive into those DFS streets, do so right now. For users who have yet to make a deposit on FanDuel Fantasy, you can deposit today to receive 2 free entries. All you have to do is deposit a minimum of $10 into your FanDuel DFS account, and you'll be instantly rewarded with 2 free vouchers. This is a limited time offer, so be sure to deposit now and play for free. Head over to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Fantasy app today. Eligibility restrictions apply. Go to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app for more details. Pitching preview for this Wednesday slate. We got Max Scherzer here checking in as the highest salaried pitcher on FanDuel. He is $11,000, followed by Aaron Nola in that same game at 10.5. That'll be fun. Framber Valdez is $10,000. Sean Manaea, 96. Logan Webb facing Manaea is 93. Clayton Kershaw making his season debut, $9,100. Max Fried is 9,000. Then we have Adam Wainwright, Nathan Eovaldi, Kyle Hendricks as the others being at $8,000 or higher. Now, I think at the top, you got a tough choice between Max Scherzer and Aaron Nola because both these guys are very good pitchers in tough matchups, and they're both pretty stretched out. So they're on equal footing. And it might be dumb, but I think I like Aaron Nola more. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that the matchup is better for Nola. He's facing the Mets. They have a much lower ISO against righties than the Phillies do, and also a lower fly ball rate. They're not a big strikeout team, the Mets, but the other stuff matters a lot in terms of DFS. And Nola can bring the strikeouts himself. He has made 13 starts while throwing fewer four-seam fastballs. And it's skewed more towards sinkers than you'd like, but it hasn't hurt his upside. He's got a 31% strikeout rate in that time, a 3.06 skill interactive ERA. Still some rocky starts in there, but the peripherals on Nola are sick. I've got Nola projected for 6.83 strikeouts right now. That is the second highest mark on the slate behind Scherzer, but we have Nola at a bit of a discount. He's at home. I think those factors do push me his direction. That's enough for me to put Nola first on my list here at $10,500. It's kind of a similar spot for Logan Webb, who I'm going to put second. He's a good pitcher. It's not the most electric matchup, but Webb is $9,300, and he has lots of things to like here. I'm going to put him next up on my list. He's facing the Padres, and the Padres are a team I expect to be a low strikeout team this year. They've got a 21% strikeout rate against righties since the start of last year on their current active roster. But most of the high strikeout guys on this slate, the pitchers here, aren't in great spots from that perspective. They're not facing high strikeout teams. So that's not necessarily an opportunity cost thing. It's just like, okay, it's a no negative across the board. Plus, Webb is nasty. He has thrown fewer four-seam fastballs like Nola over his past 11 starts, again, could be a bad thing because it, could throw more sinkers and sinkers suck, but it hasn't hurt Webb. It's actually led him to be like this dominant type guy with a 2.81 skill interactive ERA, 19% fly ball rate, and a 26% strikeout rate. Now, the strikeout rate is not massive, but it's also not nothing. I've got him projected for 6.22 strikeouts. That ranks sixth highest on this slate. But when you put that in a cool park with the skills that he has, the rest of his profile should be really good. So I like Webb a lot at $9,300. I know I tend to be higher on him than most in terms of DFS, but I'm okay with that personally. So I think that Logan Webb, a mighty fine option for today in the mid-range on FanDuel. As far as a value guy, we're not going to get the same floor that we get from Webb from Nathan Eovaldi, but I love his ceiling for today. And I think that honestly, if I'm looking at things relative to salary, I'd probably go Eovaldi above Webb for today. And the reason is I love the ceiling for Eovaldi. He's facing the Tigers. They will strike out. They've got a 24% strikeout rate against righties since the start of last year, which is tied for the highest mark on this slate. It's an intriguing combo because Eovaldi gets a lot of strikeouts on his own as well. In the first start this year, Eovaldi threw his slider 19.7% of the time. That is up from his full season mark last year. So more sliders this year than he did the last year. But it's a change that he started doing back in early August last year. And if we look at the 11 starts, then the one start here with more sliders, he's at a 29% strikeout rate. Got a 3.22 skill interactive ERA. He is letting up a bit too much hard contact in this time. And that's why Eovaldi is $8,500 and not $9,500 or $9,900. But he has upside, and we need that on a slate with so many good pitchers to hang with those top-end scores that Scherzer, Nola, et cetera, will get you. Eovaldi threw 76 pitches in his first start this year. That was good enough to get him 7 strikeouts across 5 innings, so I'm guessing he'll go 85 to 90 or so here. I've got him projected to 85, so on the lower end of that, and that puts him for 6.68 strikeouts, which ranks 4th on this slate. You're getting that for $8,500, so I know that there were some homer issues with Eovaldi that could happen again based on the lineup he's facing, based on the fact that he does let up some hard contact, but I am okay hoping he keeps the ball in the yard here and going with Eovaldi once again today. So the top guy again, Nola, slightly over Scherzer, Webb 2 in the mid-range, and then Eovaldi, but I think Eovaldi again grades out pretty well relative to salary. So I'll probably have more of him than I have Webb for today. As far as stacks go for today, I mentioned that there is wind blowing in Atlanta, and that is true. And it does downgrade batters there, but I still think the Braves are at the top stack of the night. They're facing Josiah Gray, and it's risky to stack against Gray because he definitely has talent. And that shows up in his strikeout numbers because Gray has a 25% strikeout rate over his past 5 starts, so he's been throwing more sliders. So that's good, a lot of strikeouts. But he also has an 11% walk rate and a 47% fly ball rate in that time. So he gets in big trouble, and he's a volatile pitcher. And volatility can be good if we're looking for like upside, but it also can be good if we're looking for stacking against him. Against the Mets in his first start, Gray had 5 strikeouts across 4 innings, but also 4 earned runs because of those other issues. I do like Gray long-term. I love high strikeout guys, and I think he'll eventually be solid, but he's not there yet, and it makes it easy to stack the Braves on a slate lacking in elite stacking options. I'd give preference to the lefties on the Braves here when stacking them because they do have a higher hard hit rate against Gray in his career than righties. So the righties are still good, but bump up guys like Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Eddie Rosario, all those guys worthy of a bump up as a result of the platoon splits here relative to the powerful righties. You could consider Alex Dickerson. He is $2,100. I always get a bit nervous with him because I'm worried that he could leave for a pinch hitter. So just consider that. But if you want a salary saver, you want to get Nola with Albies or Olsen, stuff like that, I think that you could consider Dickerson in that situation. Moving to our second stack, Merrill Kelly looked really good in his first start. He had 7 strikeouts in 4 innings against the Padres. And he was good this spring too. And broadly, I think that Kelly is a solid pitcher, but it is a very tough slate for stacking. We don't have a lot of good options with so many aces pitching. And Kelly's facing the Astros, so I think they are a good team to stack for tonight. Kelly, in that game last week, continued a trend he started last year where he threw fewer curveballs and more changeups. Clearly, things have been fine with that approach based on those results last week and based on a lot of what he did last year too. But some of the peripherals show that he's not quite like an elite arm yet. He has a 4.56 skill interactive ERA in that time, which is tied for second highest in the slate. He has a 20% strikeout rate, which means a lot of balls in play. And the fly ball rate, a bit above average at 38%. So he's better, but he's still not pristine, especially on a tough slate. The Astros have a 119 WRC plus against righties since the start of last year, a 192 ISO, and I'll happily take both those things. So I think they are second today behind just the Braves for stacking. One guy, though I'm not super itchy to use in this stack, is Michael Brantley. He's likely to hit second, and you get a not super high salary guy, batting second, a stack you want to do, good park, cool, but I'm not sure he has the upside to burn me for not using him. Like, there's not a lot of FOMO here. He has a 146 ISO against righties since the start of last year. No big changes early on this year. So I'd much rather get down to guys lower in the order, like Jeremy Pena, Chas McCormick. They're just higher upside guys than Brantley. So I am okay taking that risk, glossing over a guy batting second in a stack that I like, because I'm just not sure he'll burn me for not doing so. So that's where I am with Brantley for right now. He could be fine, but I'm okay taking that risk for sure. The third stack is going to be the Cubs. I'm not super into them like as a whole team for this year, but I do like their matchup for today. They're facing Zach Thompson. Thompson, pretty decent this spring, and I think he has talent too. There's still some flaws here, though. Primarily, Thompson doesn't get enough strikeouts yet. He made 13 starts last year with the Marlins, and in those 13 starts, he had a 20% strikeout rate with a 9% walk rate. And that leads to a slate high 4.68 skill interactive ERA for each guy's most relevant sample. Thompson did do some nice things in the bullpen, and I wouldn't be shocked if those translate to when he's in the rotation this year. But I kind of want to see it before I believe it, especially when we're in a situation where, again, we're pretty thin on quality stacks for this slate. We also saw Thompson let up a 40% fly ball rate. So not a ton of strikeouts. Let's have fly balls. That's kind of the key formula always, but especially for today on this slate. And I think that's enough to beat on the Cubs for today. Thompson's big issue last year was handling lefties. He let up a 454 slugging percentage to them versus a 304 for righties. And it's not ideal for the Cubs because they are a kind of righty-heavy lineup, but Rafael Ortega, absolutely good enough to use. Very high on him. Ian Happ has some power. Not opposed to Jonathan VR if he plays. Not sure he will, but if he's in there, I'd be fine with it. And Seiya Suzuki's a righty, so that's worth noting, but I'm obviously very okay with him. A couple homers last night. He's $2,800, so Suzuki the exception to the lefty preference rule, but guys like Ortega, Happ, maybe VR, all those guys, very okay by me. I'd rather not do Hayward. He's kind of in the Michael Brantley bucket where I'm not sure he'll burn me if I don't use him. Let's go now to things to watch for today. For one other stack I've been looking at, I'd be okay checking out the Reds if that game does wind up playing. They're facing Tristan McKenzie. McKenzie pitched really well last year after he came back up from the minors, but still, again, a 45% fly ball rate in that time. He had just one strikeout when he pitched in relief last week. I think it was 14 batters faced and one strikeout, 2 walks. That's a good recipe for stacking. So we need that game to play. But if we get that green light, I would say we are good to stack the Reds at that time. I'm curious what Clayton Kershaw looks like today. My strikeout projections like Kershaw a lot. I'm just not fully sure where his pitch count will be. He went 75 back on April 6th. So I project him projected to 84. But like with the Dodgers, they tend to be conservative with this stuff. They may slow play things. He might have been 75 on April 6th and then be 75 again today. So I'm interested, but I'm wary of the pitch count and not fully convinced even of what my numbers say about Kershaw for today. As for his offense in that game, my not listing them in the stacking section here was almost entirely due to weather because they're facing Chris Paddock, and Paddock let up a ton of hard contact last year. I'd be happy to stack against him if it weren't 45 degrees outside. That's brutal for hitting. So I'll be lower on the Dodgers for that reason for today. Love the matchup, love the offense, but just lower on them as a result of the lower temperatures in Minneapolis. Let's finish up here with some homer calls for today. For the boring one, I will go Matt Olson again in a good spot for a lefty facing off against Josiah Gray. I think that you always want to go towards guys like that. So the boring call is Matt Olson as the dinger call for there. For the fun one, I do want to go with Rafael Ortega because Ortega, I think it's kind of forgotten, but he had a good year last year. 282 plate appearances against righties, 203 ISO, 42% fly ball rate, can also swipe some bags. So, we're talking about dingers here, but if you use him for DFS, even if he doesn't go deep, he can still pay off for DFS. So the home run calls for today, Matt Olson and Rafael Ortega. Hopefully that was fast enough to get you on your way in time to go fill out some good lineups. Again, 12:20 is locked for today. So go over, get those lineups in, have some fun, win some money, and enjoy the slate. Do not forget to subscribe to the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, you name it, you find it. We can find us there. And while you're there, if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review. If you got questions for me, I am on Twitter at JimSannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your DFS lineups. Enjoy the basketball tonight. We'll talk to you once again on Thursday for another slate. This has been the Heat Check, or the solo shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.